Greetings. Thank you for taking this course. My name is Carmen Elena Dobrota, and I'm a lecturer at the Faculty of Business and Administration of the University of Bucharest. I teach the course on regional development and the course on the management of European programs and projects. Today, we will talk about organic farming, the benefits of research and European funds financial support on the organic production. Next slide. This topic is of great interest for the students because organic farming has become a very specialized field for which specific knowledge and technologies are needed. The present course aims to describe the state of research in the field of organic agriculture and the funding provided to substantiate, from a scientific point of view, the embracing of organic farming practices by harvesters. Next slide. After taking this course, you will be able to present aspects of the evolution of organic farming and product market in the European Union, understand the implementation of the Common Agriculture Policy and measures dedicated to organic farming in the European Union, identify the main results of the use of European funds for organic farming in Romania in the period 2014-2020. Talk about institutional organization of research in the organic sector and differentiate between allocation of funds for research in the field of organic farming at EU level and at national level. Next slide. Research in the field of organic farming has evolved along with the interest given to the consumption of organic products. Given that the organic sector is responding to a growing desire for healthy food consumption, it leads to substantial production but at high cost. The challenges facing scientific research are related to improving agricultural methods through the increased use of technology, digitalization, and genetically modified organisms in order to reduce production costs and to increase the quality of the products and the efficiency of the production. Next slide. Now we're going to talk about some aspects of the evolution of organic farming and product market in the European Union. A zone can be vouched for as being an organic one only if it undergoes a transformation process. In pursuance of having plants and plant products accredited as organic, the production guidelines must have been used on the plot of land during a transformation period of at least 2 years before planting. The transformation process could last up to 2-3 years, revolving around the type of the crop. However, there are different cases. For example, when talking about grasslands or perennial forage, the optimal period would be at least 2 years before utilizing it as provisions from the organic farming. Next slide. The demand for organic products is constantly growing. The highest demand for organic products comes from the US and Europe. This increase has led both to increasing production in this sector and to an increase in the number of producers. Next slide. In the EU 28 in 2018, 13.4 million hectares of agricultural land have been used for organic farming. If we were to convert in percentages, this means that 7.5% of the total appropriate agricultural zone of the EU 28 was used for organic producing crops. The highest proportion of organic land were enrolled in Austria, Sweden, and Estonia, each of those having a percentage above 20% of total agricultural land. Given this trend, in the upcoming years, the total organic area in the EU 28 is expected to grow even more. Next slide. You can see the share of the total organic area. According to the data registered by Eurostat, Bulgaria, Croatia, and Ireland were the countries that had a recorded growth of over 100% in the total organic area between 2012 and 2018. The highest total organic areas calculated in hectares, both in 2012 and 2018, were registered in Spain, France, and Italy. Next slide. The European Commission suggested in its Agricultural Outlook 2019 to 2030 that the increase demanded for organic food could magnify the EU supply in the short term. In the long run, the growth of organic production could be slowed down by the changes made in society in order to try environmentally friendly alternatives, along with the conversion to organic farming. Next slide. In Europe, the organic market grew by 7.8% in the European Union, by 7.7%. From 2009 to 2018, the organic market not only doubled in size but even exceeded it. France and Denmark had the highest increase with 15%, respectively 13%. Denmark also had the highest per capita consumption of organic food with a sum of 312 euros. Next slide. The Commission affirms that the production underdeveloped in the EU because of the high production fares for organic products, which do not balance the production and conversion costs. By 2030, the Commission expects that the EU organic area could hit 18 million hectares, or 10% of the total agricultural land, changing the growth in land use by 3% per year. Next slide. We're going to talk about the implementation of the common agricultural policies and measures dedicated to organic farming in the European Union. The common agricultural policy is one of the first community policies created with the aim of ensuring the necessary food supply within the community. The CAP reform began in 2013, and at the same time, the European Action Plan for Organic Food and Farming aimed to support the development of organic farming by establishing the directions in which it can contribute to the implementation of the CAP. Next slide. The CAP is currently built on two pillars. The first pillar, Pillar 1, Common Market Organizations. Common measures to regulate the functioning of agricultural product markets. The second pillar, Pillar 2, Rural Development, structural measures aimed at balanced development of rural areas. The member states and regions shall draw up their own rural development programs according to the needs of the territory. Rural development is funded by the European Agricultural for Rural Development Fund. Each member state receives a financial package for this period of 7 years. The total allocation of 2014-2020 programming period for all member states in 2011 prices is 84.94 billion euros for rural development, respectively 99.9 billion euros in current prices from Pillar 2. For the 2014-2020 programming period, there are 111 national and regional rural development programs, co-financed from the European Agriculture for Rural Development Funds and national contribution. Next slide. A total of 20 of the 28 member states have only national rural development programs, while 8 member states, respectively Portugal, Spain, France, the United Kingdom, Belgium, Germany, and Italy, have rural development programs also at the regional level. At the same time, these programs must address to at least 4 of the 6 EU rural development priorities. Next slide. The priority number 4 finances measures for the conservation and development of ecosystems that are related to agriculture and forestry. Approximately 14% of the total funds are for priority number 4. For the programming period 2014-2020, there is a separate measure to recognize the importance of organic farming in contributing to various rural development objectives and priorities. From the total budget for EU RDPs, 99 billion euros, the total contribution regarding the organic farming payments measured 11 for 2014-2020 builds up to 6.3 billion euros or 6.4%. These numbers can be approximated to the percentage of the EU organic farmland, 5.7% as of 2014. Next slide. The farmers that convert to organic farming or keep their methods and practices receive support per hectare of agricultural area through the Organic Farming Support Measure, M11. M11 provides support for the conversion of traditional farming to organic farming and the sustenance of certified organic farming, being thus destined to active farmer type. Next slide. You can see the contribution to organic farming made by EARDF or Measure 11 under CAP 2014-2020 compared to the organic farmland area in 2014 by member states. No clear model can be found in the relationship between the importance attributed to organic farming by the states and the size of their national organic sector. For example, with the scope of expanding the organic farmland area, they fluctuate all across the countries from 0.2% in Malta to 13.2% in Denmark of the total EU spendings for RDPs. Next slide. In this chart, it can be seen that other member states of the EU estimated that under Measure 11 it will be supported less organic farmland zone than was actually applied for in conversion in 2014. Romania, for example, Spain, Austria, UK, Portugal, Czech Republic, France, and Sweden. Next slide. There is no constant strategy for all member states to follow. And fourth, each one prioritizes differently organic farming development. The environmental benefits that come from organic farming practices are usually mentioned as justifications in support of organic farming by most of the RDPs. The result is stagnation or decline in some countries, while others consider it a priority. The EARDF area projections for Measure 11 on an EU perspective indicate that it cannot be expected that the implementation of the new RDP to achieve a high organic area growth only by 2020. In many countries and regions, the application of the measure is associated to a regional or national organic production of crops action plan procedure. Next slide. Now we can see the main results of the use of European funds for organic farming in Romania in the period 2014-2020. In Romania, Measure 11 organic farming supports active farmers registered in the organic farming system, both for the operation carried out for the conversion to organic farming, submeasure 11.1, and for maintaining the certification in organic farming, submeasure 11.2. The support provided under these submeasures shall be granted to active farmers who shall voluntarily undertake to adopt or continue to apply the practices and methods specific to organic farming. Depending on the type of crop, the value of the support is between 78 and 620 euros per hectare per year. Now we can see the situation of payments granted under Measure 11. Payments granted under Measure 11 may be combined with other types of area payments. Direct payments, payments granted under Measure 13, payments for areas facing natural or other specific constraints. Package 1 of submeasure may be combined with packages 4 and 5 of submeasure 10.1 on agri-environment and climate. Package 2 of submeasure may be combined only with Package 4 of submeasure 10.1 on agri-environment and climate. And Package 6, Variant 6.2, it can only be accessed together with Packages 1, 2, 3.1, 3.2, 6, 9.2, 11.2 of submeasure 10.1 on agri-environment and climate. According to the information provided by MADR, the payments under the multi-annual commitments requested by the organic farming operators during the 2014 and 2020 programming period are covered by the financial allocation of M11 of 246.91 million euros. The infusion of European funds in the organic farming in Romania did not only mean spending almost 200 million euros, but also translated into supporting 3 times the number of farmers in 4 years and increasing the areas under conversion or maintaining organic farming practices 4 times higher. Next slide. Now we can see the main challenges of research in the Department of Organic Agriculture. Scientific research in the field of organic farming has begun to be financially supported by Commission or national funds. In this figure, it can be seen that the financing of research direction determines their prioritization according to the interest of producers, traders, consumers, ecologists, or researchers. Next slide. Producers are mainly concerned with increasing farm productivity at the lowest possible cost. They can also target environmental protection measures or food safety. Buyers are primarily interested in food security, nourishment, and the cost of organic products. Traders, placing themselves between producers and consumers, are interested in a consistent supply of organic products. At the same time, producers, together with traders, they are concerned by the development of the organic farming industry. The buyers may also be interested in how the production, distribution, and consumption of organic products affect the environment. And in the same time, they can influence production through the consumption preferences they have. Next slide. In order to substantiate tactic decisions, governments use research. The results of basic research are not put into practice as quickly as those of applied research, which justify from this perspective the allocation of funds. Another risk is that the research results will become obsolete due to the period of time in which the scientific activity took place. The allocation of funds for research must take into account the relationship between the various research methods, with an emphasis on the relationship between elementary and applied studies, and subsequently the development of new production technologies that determine productivity growth. Next slide. You can see the pipeline model of research. The funds should be directed where the relationship of the components in figure are the closest. For example, the development of a new cultivation technology as a result of applied research has a faster impact on productivity than research aimed at plant growth. Next slide. The challenge for funding in titles is to assess the chances of a positive research outcome and to obtain rapid benefits as a result of its transfer to the market. Such an evaluation could prioritize research funding. Next slide. There are several aspects distinguishing the organic farming. So, the first problem appears to be the comprehensive approach to agriculture, and the second aspect is the disconnected funding. The first problem, established from the perspective that the whole system means more than the total of its pieces, the synergy paradigm, hardly any scientists have been prepared to apply comprehensive methods, as organic farming is frequently considered a danger to the controlling archetype. There is an altercation that the distribution of funding should be divided between organic farming study and common farming. Next slide. The development of organic farming needs lasting plan of action too. Create research capacity around the world. Distribute research results. Assist farmers and possible other participants involved along the value chain to develop and adopt more efficient technologies. Next slide. Technology Innovation Platform of IFOAM, Organic International, has identified 3 strategies that could help to the advancement of research and innovation in organic agriculture. First, advancement of appropriate ways for organic farming systems and usual procedures. Second, permanent alliance among farmers, agricultural consultants, researchers, and end users. Third, integrating the technological, social, and environmental ranges of novelty. Next slide. For mixed, multidisciplinary research teams in the field of organic agriculture is evident in most studies to date. In order for organic farming to be able to diminish the yield gap compared to common farming, it is a need for organic farmers and the specialized subdivision to advance innovation and disseminate new practices and solutions. Factors that could block multidisciplinary research have been identified. Some of these relate to common values, ensuring the balance between technical skills, institutional research capacity, problem-solving team capacity, and institutional resilience, while other factors relate to leadership and knowledge control, the proposed experimental plan, and the involvement of the team. Next slide. Now we're going to talk about the institutional organization of research in the organic sector. About 20 universities and public research centers are currently conducting research in the field of organic farming. Another 10 private centers are involved in similar activities. European countries collaborate to establish prevalent priorities in organic farming based on dialogues with national stakeholders. Next slide. A study that analyzed the market and the political factors that influenced land conversion in 61 countries between 1990 and 2001 found that the availability of advice was one particular determinant that had the greatest impact on the development of organic farming in its initial stages of the sector's growth. In the time, national organic studies activities have developed into the most dominant factor in the post-preliminary phases of development. Next slide. In Germany, a creative conversion plan has recently been started. In some countries, there is a specific organic study department that firmly coordinates this field, although other institutions can also carry out organic research, such as Swiss Research Institute of Organic Agriculture in Switzerland and Hungarian Research Institute of Organic Agriculture in Hungary. This plan assumes that common farmers engrossed in adaptation can get a farm where they can check how to convert, making it easier for them to meet potential consumers, processors, and distributors. Next slide. An intermediate model is in Denmark, where in the International Center for Research in Organic Food System, research is carried out in multidisciplinary cooperation between study groups from distinctive entitlements, like institutions and universities. In Denmark, there is also a public consultation process and the involvement of stakeholders in setting organic research priorities. The simulated conversion checks are days with plenty discussion offerings, the farmers a full sketch on what it would mean to convert organically from their private farms. ICROFS is currently chaired by worldwide directors with CEOs delivered by Danish entitles, such as organizations and universities. In Denmark, conversion controls were a huge success. In 2016, they contributed to a 20% increase in organic land surfaces. The idea was so efficient that it became supported by private firms' fundings, such as the Coop market chain, and also by the state. Next slide. Research for organic farming has been a primary focus of farmers in Denmark since 1981. The 1995 action plan in Denmark to promote organic food production urged that the first concern was to support organic farming study. In this context, the Ministry of Food, Agriculture and Fisheries drew an action plan in order to set up, in September 1995, the Danish Agricultural Research Center for Organic Farming. In 2008, the government expressed the intention of making its first organic research institute a worldwide research center with a worldwide funding mandate. The growth of a powerful research dashboard in Denmark was represented by notable discussion between the organic stakeholders and government. This policy ordered to ease the alteration and boost organic food production towards meeting customer demand and also suggested to create a station committed to organic research. Next slide. If it is not possible to organize an institute for research exclusively in the domain of organic farming, one option is the existence of an effective instrument for national or regional, as at European level, administration of organic field research. About this type of collaboration can be achieved either in the form of a committed organic study program financed for several years, for example, Bern in Germany, or by appointing the duty to a specially designed organization with ongoing public financial support. Next slide. If there are successive projects in the EU to support organic research, yet there is not a constant endowment to ensure constant support, some European Union countries have imposed short courses in organic farming for farmers in order to have access to different forms of public help for organic farming. The European Technology Platform for Organic Food and Agriculture, TP Organics, offers good practice on setting the organic study platform through a participatory method of implicating the different stakeholders of the organic action. The reason for such an obligatory necessity is that preparation in organic farming considerably aids alterations and confines the exposure of farmers returning to common agriculture or having problems complying with organic standards. Next slide. Now we will talk about the fund allocation for research in the field of organic farming at EU level. Since the 1990s, the EU has increasingly expanded the contribution available to ecological agricultural research. Today, the EU has become a major funder and created a structure for European organic studies. For the first time, between 1990 and 2006, European Commission funding for organic farming for research amounted to 64.2 million euros. Next, EU level. There are two levels of action. Through the EU research framework programs, which are the main tools in support of agricultural research, Horizon 2020 and EIP Agri, and through transnational or international coordination projects, such as Core Organic or Joint Programming Initiative for Agriculture, Food Security and Climate Change, or cost behaviors. EU research programs are financially supported by the EU, but international coordination projects. Next slide. Horizon 2020, the EU Research and Innovation Framework Program, has provided solutions and tools to improve the performance and uptake of research results. The mechanisms provided promoted research and innovation, coordination, networking, and training, as well as support for infrastructure and innovation, and for SMEs working in the organic farming sectors. The allocation for Horizon 2020 was almost double compared to the previous 7th framework program. Next slide. In Horizon 2020, priorities are changed compared to previous EU research programs, and the focus has changed from research to innovation with tangible impact. Although, for example, within 2016 to 2017, The European Union provided 33 million euros for financing organic study projects through Horizon 2020. They will still represent almost 1% of Horizon 2020. Speaking of the absolute funding accessible for research over the same period of time. Next slide. The Horizon 2020 regulations specifically stipulate organic farming should have a focus on the agenda to the purpose of developing programs that meet the requirements of industry. The European Commission broadly consults on European technology platforms as well as TP Organics, a technology podium for organic food and agriculture. For the first time, official European research policy documents recognize the importance of funding organic farms. The TP Organic platform, developed in 2008, has built a wide, powerful affiliation with different entities like civil society organizations, farmers, researchers, and companies. TP Organic, also acknowledged in 2013 by the European Commission as European Technology Platform, ETP, provided a formal counseling role in the fulfillment of the Horizon 2020 program. Next slide. Between 2021 and 2027, Horizon Europe will fund research and innovation activities distributing a total budget of 95.9 billion euros. In the period 2000-2012, 49 EU-funded research projects on low consumption, agriculture and organic farming strengthened the research and innovation capacity of the organic sector. This budget will be divided over 6 clusters, one of which relates closely to catalyzes agri-food and bioeconomic branch, food bioeconomic, natural resources, agriculture and environment. Despite significant funding from the European Union, most funds allocated to farming studies are still handled by EU member states. Next slide. Many EU member states since 2004 have been participating in a transnational alliance called Core Organic, which brings together assets in organic food and agriculture research. Core Organic had a total budget of 14 million euros and Core Organic Plus 2.8 million euros. Next slide. Now we're going to talk about national funds for research in the field of organic farming. A lot of European states and regions offered studies grants dedicated to projects for particular affairs, national or regional, related to organic farming. Next slide. In Netherlands, important attention has been paid to training, education, and research in organic farming. Organic research for the Dutch government follows mainly the market demand. The Netherlands allocated in 2009 10% of the entire farming study budget to organic farming. Moreover, the percentage for organic research increased in 2008 to a total of 9.6 million euros. Since 2005, the authorities have accredited the accountability for adapting the organic study agenda to stakeholders. For this, they developed and funded BioConnect, an organic sector knowledge network, now part of BioNext. BioConnect was subsequently continued until 2011. The attendance rate was tremendous. Organic process involved 50% of actors and 60% of organic farmers. Next slide. In Germany, the Berlin Course of Action supports study projects by pointing out research priorities, advertising research ideas, evaluating the items according to cost effectiveness, relevance, and practicality. In addition to federal budget, the German state financed organic studies as well. Besides funding research, Bill takes care of and consolidates the supply and demand for environmentally friendly or otherwise sustainable products in various forms of training and dissemination. Looking back from the start, this course of action has supported, with an amount of 126 million euros, 930 research projects. Moreover, it has facilitated 3,500 knowledge transfer events beginning with 2005. A relevant example was Bavaria, between 1995 and 2008, which spent 3.7 million euros funding ecological studies. Next slide. In Switzerland, FIBO, Organic Research Institute, was created in 1974 and brought this country the recognition as one of the global commanders in organic farming studies. Another center for organic research in Switzerland is Agroscope. Furthermore, public universities accomplish important organic studies. FIBO is a private entity, though it operates with almost 50% of its budget from public funding, which meant about 8 million euros coming from public funding in 2014. Agroscope's annual funding goes about 16% to the organic research, meaning almost 30 million euros. Next slide. In 2011, FIBO founded EMKI in Hungary, where the FIBO framework of the specialized non-profit private organic study and expression center was replicated. In Italy, since the early 1990s, the Line Ministry has played an important mission in preparation and directing funds towards national research for organic farming and food. OFF. In 2013, the University of Debrecen awarded to EMKI the title of Agrobiodiversity and Organic Agriculture External Department. For the implementation of the national plan, the Ministry found 4 strategic axes and 14 key actions to support research in the period 2009-2014. This research plan supplied the institutional framework for funding research actions and was progressively implemented. Next slide. Most EU member states are backing up, regardless the way, the issue of organic recommendation in their enlargement services, also through correspondence systems. An important aspect is the training plans delivered to organic farms. Such examples were in Germany, the Netherlands, Finland, Flanders, Luxembourg, Spain, Poland, Wallonia in Belgium, Italy, and Ireland. Thank you very much for your attention.